Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Southern Craft Manufacturing is dedicated to creating the finest quality and greatest value products in the death care industry. Southern Craft has perfected blending old world craftsmanship with modern manufacturing technologies to create a full line of steel, wood, and corrugated caskets. Family owned and operated for over 30 years, Southern Craft is now looking to hire local and regional truck drivers, welders, and production workers, each with great starting pay and a benefits package. For more information, visit SouthernCraftMFG.com. Let me tell you about a place that has it all for your home, bedroom, kitchen, lawn, and more. It's a home-owned and home-operated business that's been around for over 70 years, so you know they're doing something right. At Swap and Shop Center in Lawrenceburg, you'll find top name brands for every room of your house, and top brands for the outside too. Looking for appliances, televisions, couches, safes, bedding, mowers, and well, the list goes on. So make the drive today to 824 North Military Avenue in Lawrenceburg and be treated right.
If you're looking for a company that can do it all when it comes to building, look no further than Tennessee Properties. From new home builds to remodels and commercial projects, our contractors work hard to give your space a new life from planning to finishing touches. Whether it's new interiors or dirt work, they see your big picture without forgetting the small details. In the market for a new home, they partnered with Freeman Development to bring new homes to the Oak Hill subdivision of Lawrenceburg. That's Tennessee Properties, licensed and insured. Call today or visit Tennessee.com.
Good Works at Home, formerly known as the Summit at Home, is a licensed non-skilled agency dedicated to helping you maintain your independence at home for as long as possible. Our compassionate and caring staff provide support in various areas, including dressing, bathing, personal hygiene, transportation, cleaning, and companionship. Please call our office about services, payment options, and long-term care policies at 931-762-2310. We look forward to assisting you with keeping your independence longer.
Efficiency, reliability, accuracy. Move forward with your real estate sale or purchase with Title and Escrow of Lawrence County, the most experienced closing team around. Working with clients locally and throughout the state, we offer a wide range of services, including the expertise of an on-staff attorney, backed by our more than 49 years experience in titles and closings. We get the job done on time at a fair price and ensure every last detail is correct. Our goal is to give you peace of mind. When you work with us, you work with people who live where you do. We understand the importance of the real estate community and strive to build strong relationships with all parties involved in the process. Whether you're buying a home, selling a business, acquiring land, or anything in between, you're in good hands with Title and Escrow of Lawrence County.
Put the most experienced closing team on your side. Contact Title and Escrow of Lawrence County today.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And happy Friday, everybody. Welcome in here to the X Sports Network. It's time for Mark My Words, the college sports show here on the X Sports Network. And we're going to jump right into it. Not a whole lot to talk about today. Probably the least college football we've had to talk about since I've started the show. A bunch of college basketball. We're right in the heat of conference, the conference season for everybody. Got some kind of updated conference favorites. We'll look at, bad on my part. I completely forgot to look at the AP poll on Wednesday, so we'll look over that. And we've got some games for this weekend, games for early next week, because, again, don't know what the weather's going to bring us. So we'll jump right into it with a little college football news. We got some playoff update, so it will stay at 12 teams at least until next season, which I think is a great thing. I'm against making it. I honestly thought 4 was probably fine. This year we got the number 10 team in the championship game, so maybe 12 was a good number. If it goes any larger than 16, we're probably going to start seeing some problems with it. But there have been a few changes to the rules now. So this year the rule was top 5 ranked conference champions. Well, next year, each of the Power 4 conferences, being the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12, their conference champ gets an auto bid. So, this year, no longer just the top 5 ranked or conference champs. So that would have replaced James Madison this year with Duke. And Duke would have been the 12th seed. Now, would that have changed a whole lot? Probably not. It just would have made Duke, put Duke in the playoff, giving them a little bit more money. Obviously, with revenue sharing in the ACC. So, not sure if that's going to change a whole lot. I think that they had the top 5 ranked conference champs just because they thought that there was no way or a very slim chance that there would be a chance at an unranked team winning a conference championship game this year. And then also, if noted, and this was something that was announced all the way back when the playoff, the Final 12 was announced, that if Notre Dame is ranked inside the top 12 of the final poll, they will make the playoff. So it would have actually changed a little bit with this year's playoff because they would have been in, Miami would have been out. And, that's one of your two teams in the championship game. Could Notre Dame have made it to the championship game? I personally don't think so. Maybe a semifinal. I think that Ole Miss probably would have beat Notre Dame. So, yeah, some interesting changes. Will it have too much of the impact on the playoff? I don't think we'll ever have a discussion again of 2 group of 5 teams making it. So, that was kind of a one and done with that. Because unless there's a team that just goes 12-0, 13-0, or whatever with their conference champ and just blows everybody out of the water, and you have another one, say like next year it's North Texas. I get they lost everybody, but UNLV and Memphis. Throw those 2 teams out there. Say they both go 13-0, win their conference championship, and beat everybody by like 20. I still don't think it happens. So we pretty much got a one and done with that this year. And now, again, if Notre Dame's ranked in the Final 12, they'll make the playoff. USC is making a move on the defensive side of the ball, bringing in former longtime TCU head coach Gary Patterson. Patterson was the head coach of the Horned Frogs from 2000 to 2021, then moved on to Texas the following season to be a special assistant to head coach Steve Sarkisian. Took a year off and then joined Baylor's staff in 2024 as a consultant. And after another year off last year, it seems that Patterson is back. Now, something interesting to look at is since he left TCU, none of his stays have been longer than 1 year. So, is this a long-time hire for Lincoln Riley and his staff, or is this we need a guy for a year or 2 until we can really bring in somebody that we trust? Interesting though. Listen, I was a huge TCU fan around the time that Andy Dalton was coming through. When Gary Patterson had that team rolling, I think they went like 13-0, 10-0, something like that in 2010. So I like Patterson as a coach. I liked his teams, and maybe he'll tie up that USC defense because we talked about it. USC's defense is realistically what kept them out of the playoff this year. I talked about it on Wednesday. They couldn't get a stop against Notre Dame. They couldn't get a stop against Illinois, and they couldn't get a stop against Oregon. You win one more of those games, maybe you're knocking on a door of the playoffs, but unfortunately you didn't. So, you're just sitting at home. Well, I mean, the season's over, so everybody's sitting at home, I guess, realistically. Now on over to college basketball. Boy, if y'all haven't been watching some MAC basketball, you're missing out. Miami of Ohio this year, 20-0. If you've seen their last 2 games, they've been thrillers down to the wire with both Buffalo and Kent State. They finally got into the top 25. One of the last undefeated teams. I think we have Arizona, Nebraska, and Miami of Ohio all on the men's side still undefeated. And hey, Miami, they're getting a game televised Tuesday at home against UMass on ESPNU. I believe the game is slated for 8 Central Time, so a late start there. But listen, watch that game. It's going to be a great one. Miami of Ohio is a super fun team to watch. And now we'll talk about the big story going around in college basketball, and that is... Well, I don't want to call out one player, but it's the Charles Bediako situation in Alabama. So Nate Oates has stated throughout the week that Alabama does plan to play Bediako. I'm not sure if it's in a starting role or just a minute or 2 here. This whole situation's just a mess because anyone now who doesn't care about ethical implications, which pretty much means everybody, at least when it comes to college coaches, that messed up and poorly constructed a roster for this year can just say, hey, let's go get a guy out of the G League that, hey, I need a big man. We'll go get a big man out of the G League. Hey, I want a guard. I'll go get a guard out of the G League that hasn't used up their college eligibility, because there's probably a good bit of those. Another problem that I'm not sure if has been a huge narrative, but the big problem I have is we went into college at the same time. He played 2 years, left for 3 seasons, and this being also counting in as the third. And now he can just go back and get his eligibility back? Now, we've seen similar instances with guys that have gone to play baseball and stuff like that and gone back to college, like Chris Winkie. But I have a little bit more compassion for that because it's a different sport. If you're, you get drafted pretty high in baseball and you're a really good, football player. I think Joe Mauer, back in his day, was the number 1 quarterback in the country, or one of the number 1 quarterbacks in the country, and one of the number 1 baseball players in the country. So he had a tough decision to make. I think it was the same thing for Matt Holliday as well. Again, one of the number 1 baseball players in the country, and one of the number 1 football players in the country. And obviously those guys both chose baseball, but with the Winky thing, went and played baseball for a little bit, came back to college. I'm fine with that. You're playing the same sport. If Bediako played baseball in Alabama and got drafted and wanted to come back and play basketball because he had played basketball at Alabama, or was planning to play basketball at Alabama, I'd have a little bit more compassion for that. But just, he's doing this there's 2 reasons it's happening. You can look at it from the coach's side, that Nate Oates needs a big man. Alabama struggled on the boards, and Tennessee is one of the best rebounding teams in the country. He wants a big man to try to shore up that backcourt a little bit more. But then you look at it from Bediako's side. He messed up. A couple of years ago, he was playing college basketball on a number 1 seed Alabama team, declares for the draft, doesn't remove his name from the draft process by that due date, doesn't get drafted, and is stuck in the G League. And now, I messed up. I want to go back to college because I can make a lot of money now. Because, trust me, G League contracts are not very lucrative. That's probably the nice way to put it. Well, let's look up what an average G League contract. Average G League salary is around $40,000. Now, two-way players earn a much higher minimum. It's around $600K. But if you're not one of those guys, you're earning somewhere in the high 30s, low 40s when it comes to money. So obviously, Bediako makes it a smart move. I can go to Alabama, back to a school where I already played. Everybody knows me, and I'm I would say well respected, at least in the Alabama circus. That I can make a good bit of NIL money, especially now with NIL basketball. I mean, Kentucky spent over $20 million on their roster, so you can get a crap load of money just sitting on the bench of an SEC school. Other SEC coaches have started to weigh in on this. We've seen Todd Golden. We've seen Mark Pope at Kentucky. We've seen Stephen Pearl at Auburn. All kind of weigh in on this. And Calipari was doing it back when James Najee was really one of the only guys doing this. But Golden says they were able to finagle the situation where they got a judge in Alabama that is actually a donor to Alabama to write a TRO, a temporary restraining order, to allow this guy to play games at Alabama. Now, Mark Pope mentioned that, listen, the NCAA gets the final say as who makes the tournament. And I believe Stephen Pearl said something similar to that. And that's kind of similar to what my opinion is. I think as long as these guys are on the court, and it's not just because it's Bediako at Alabama. I'm talking about Najee at Baylor. I'm talking about London Johnson at Louisville. And now he's already been shut down for the year. So, maybe some interesting situation with that. And with the Darling kid at Santa Clara. The selection committee should not look at or count any game as long as these guys are on the team. I don't care if they play, if they don't play. You have an ineligible player on your team. We've seen that happen in college football. If you have an ineligible player on your team, goodbye to any victory you had that year. Shouldn't look at those games, shouldn't count those games, and I wouldn't let them compete in the tournament until those players are no longer on the team, because it's ruining the credibility of college basketball. I watch college basketball because I like watching amateur kids that are 18 to 22 years old going out there and leaving it all on the line. I like watching the tournament when you got guys that you have never heard of from schools you've barely heard of going on a cool run, making a improbable run, making the Sweet 16, stuff like that. And now we're sitting here talking about professionals coming back and playing college basketball. It's a problem. So now we'll look at that new AP poll that I forgot to look at on Monday, because we've got some interesting spots in it to definitely to take a look at. So we'll start at the back half at number 25. Well, that would be Miami of Ohio. I just talked about them. Already picked up a win this week, 20-0. Awesome. I mean, it's just super cool to see a team that you typically don't see, making a crazy run doing this. And another team that we haven't heard of in several years. I remember talking about them a few months ago with some workers here, but St. Louis, the Billikens, back in the top 25 at number 24, 17-1 out of the A10, playing against St. Bonaventure. That game is actually tonight, so we'll talk about that one in a little bit. Down 3 spots is Louisville. Down 8 spots, North Carolina to 22. Georgia at 21. Arkansas down a few spots to number 20. Kansas stays at 19. Clemson up 4 spots to number 18. Bama up a spot to 17. Florida jumps 3 spots to number 16. Vandy falls 5 spots to number 15. Virginia up 2 spots to 14. BYU down 2 spots to 13. And then Texas Tech up 3 spots to 12. Illinois up 2 spots to 11. Michigan State up 2 spots to 10. Iowa State falls from 2 to 9. Gonzaga up 1 spot to 8. Nebraska up a spot to 7. Houston up a spot to 6. Duke up a spot to 5. Purdue up a spot to 4. Michigan up a spot to 3. And UConn up to number 2. And remaining at number 1 and now getting all 61 of the first place votes is the Arizona Wildcats. Listen, I think we need to start giving some more respect to some of these one-loss teams. Because quite frankly, right now, I think that Duke and Houston are being vastly underappreciated, as is Nebraska. I think that Duke's your best team in the ACC. I think Duke's better than UConn. I think Duke's better than Purdue. Maybe not Michigan. So I think Duke's getting a little disrespected. Now, they do have the loss to Texas Tech, who, we mentioned there at number 12, who is a very good team this year and has had a tough schedule. Houston, that one loss to Tennessee was a bit of a fluky game, honestly, looking back at it. And funny enough, we mentioned that game because I did see a stat a couple of weeks ago that I saved. So this was from a tweet posted 5 days ago on the 17th. So Tennessee hit 8 consecutive free throws to put away Houston and Vegas. Since then, they have played 9 teams in the top 80 net rankings, going a combined 154 for 235 at the line. 65%. In those 9 games, the Vols have left an average of 9 points at the charity stripe, and in those games, their average differential, 10 points. I mean, I think that's a great example of hitting your free throws, kid. Couple here, couple there, because you got to realize that has like a 25-point loss to Florida averaged in there. You take that away, because there was, as bad as you played the back half of the second half, or the back half of the first half, you were not going to win that game. But if you go back and look at their schedule and just some of these games, okay, let's go back to their first loss of the season, Kansas. You lose by 5. How'd you shoot from the free throw line in that game? 17 of 22. Not bad. You hit those 5 free throws, it goes to overtime. That was just a poor shooting game. You shoot 28% from 3, you're not going to win many of those. But a game against Syracuse in the Carrier Dome, you shoot 8 of 15 from the free throw line and you lose by 2. You hit 3 free throws, your free throw percentage doesn't go up a whole lot, around 75 to 80%, and you win the game. A 7-point loss to Illinois in Nashville in a game you shot 8 of 18 from the free throw line. Again, you hit. Now, you lost by 13 in that game to Illinois, so free throws wouldn't have helped you much there, but sub 40% shooting from the field, sub 30% from 3, sub 50% from the line. Bad. Especially when Illinois is shooting 50, 40, 90 numbers almost. Look at the loss to Arkansas. Again, just poor shooting. Now, in that game, turnovers were a problem as well, but you also missed 11 free throws. You lost the game by 11. And then, I'm not going to talk about the game at Florida, but then the game against Kentucky that you lose by 2. That game, free throws weren't a huge problem at 70%. You shot 20 of 29 from the line. Kentucky was the team that could not hit a free throw in that game. But you let them come in and shoot the lights out in your own gym, and they've done that the past 4 years. I've watched it. But just a fun little tidbit stat kind of to go over there. And so that brings me to kind of my next topic is conference favorites, because I did this back, I guess right around the start of the year, or earlier in the month, and safe to say, I'm going to try to find those and see what some of the teams I had. Wasn't that one? Here we go. Here's my kind of college basketball refresher. So I had teams that realistically can win it all. Michigan, Arizona, Duke, Houston. Yeah, I think those are still your top 4 teams in the country. Now, funny enough here, biggest disappointments. Kentucky have played much better. Florida looks like a completely different team. St. John's is continuing to win games. Oregon's still pretty bad, though. Biggest surprises, Vanderbilt, they've kind of slowed down, lost their last 3 games. Virginia Tech, they've kept it up, as has Nebraska and Georgia. Georgia kind of lost their first game after that, but they're definitely not to the pace they were at the beginning of the season, but still really good. Nebraska, I think, keeps getting better every week. My best freshmen, Cam Boozer, AJ DeBanza, Darius Acuff, Caleb Wilson, those 4 kind of stay. Okuri at Stanford is really good. I think he definitely deserves a bit of a shout. Best coaching jobs. I had Dusty May of Michigan. I had Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. I had Mark Byington at Vanderbilt. And I had TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State. Honestly, with everybody in college basketball right now, it's probably a fair 4. I think John Calipari's doing a really good coaching job right now. Yeah. So here's my conference winners, and this was as of January 5, so about 3 weeks ago. I had Duke winning the ACC. I still have Duke. UConn in the Big East. I have UConn as well, but they do have a big game this weekend that you probably want to keep an eye on for kind of some seeding instances. The Big Ten, I had Michigan. I've moved over to Nebraska. They just keep winning ball games, folks, and it's hard to pick against a team that isn't losing. I mean, it seems kind of silly to say it that simple, but until Nebraska gives me a reason to pick against them, I'm not going to. It's kind of like Indiana in football. I wasn't going to pick against them until they gave me a reason to this year, and they haven't. Look at what they've done in conference play. So, just the start of the year. A win at home against Michigan State, a win at Ohio State, a win at Indiana, Yes, at Ohio State, at Indiana, a home win versus Oregon, at Northwestern, and that Oregon game, you beat them by 35. That Northwestern game, you win by almost 20. And then Wednesday, you go beat Nebraska or Washington at home by 10. So now you got Minnesota and Michigan coming up. That Michigan game on Tuesday is going to be a fun one. And I'll change my pick based on the winner of that game. In the Big 12, Arizona, I had Arizona here. They're still the number 1 team in the country. But, dude, Houston is so good. And Texas Tech is as well. Iowa State. I mean, the Big 12 is kind of like the Big 10 was in football this year. You have like those 4 or 5 teams right there at the top that are just so good. Because that was in football at least, the Indianas, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Oregons, the USCs. I mean, right now in the Big 12 in basketball, you have Arizona, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Houston, BYU. I mean, it's loaded. And there's a ton of teams that aren't ranked in the Big 12 that I think are still, I would say, are still very valuable. Let's go to the Big 12 standings real quick. Yeah, you got Arizona, Houston, Texas Tech, BYU, Iowa State, and Kansas all in the top 20. Really impressive. SEC, I had Vanderbilt. I've switched it to Florida. Man, I don't know if anybody has played better basketball since the start of the new year, since the Florida Gators. I mean, they've just been dominant. And it's in the SEC that's been a very kind of touch-and-go conference this year. You look, you only got 2 1-loss teams. You got a ton of 2-loss teams. But you look, everybody's got at least a win through 6 games. Nobody's undefeated. The SEC team with the least amount of losses right now, it's Georgia and Vanderbilt with 3 each. The most losses in the SEC right now is Mississippi State with 9. The SEC is very tight right now. The top team in the SEC, standings-wise, not even ranked right now, Texas A&M, but Florida. Let's look at what they've done this month. You start off with a conference loss at Missouri. Tough 2-point loss. I don't think you had really found yourself yet, but you can start to see it. That Georgia game really turned things around. A 15-point win against Georgia, a 24-point win against Tennessee, a 17-point win at Oklahoma, a 4-point win at Vanderbilt, and then you get an 18-point win at home against LSU on Tuesday. 5-1 in conference play, and you don't look to be slowing down anytime soon. And you got Auburn coming to town on Saturday. So let's go back and but again, and those teams I think are going to get the first round buys in the SEC. Right now, I got Florida, Arkansas, A&M, and Vandy. I think those are your top 4 teams. I think they will be your top 4 teams. Kentucky could sneak in there, maybe take a spot from A&M. But right now, anybody outside of that doesn't look likely. So let's break into the games from the weekend. We got St. Louis and St. Bonaventure at 4:30 on ESPN2. Again, St. Louis has got that number by their name. It's been the first time in forever that it seems like that. I'm going to get the Billikens getting a nice road win to start the weekend off. Ohio State 13-5 at Michigan. It's not the game like it is in college football, but Ohio State and Michigan is a fun rivalry in every sport, honestly. You really see how much these schools do not like each other. Michigan has been playing a bit slow as of late. Have not looked like that same Michigan team that was blowing everybody out and beating teams by 30 every week. You look at some of their past games, really starting leading up to that Wisconsin loss. A 2-point win over Penn State, a 3-point loss to Wisconsin, a 10-point win at Washington, a 10-point win at Oregon, and a 14-point win at home against Indiana. That was a nice win, but really those Washington, Oregon, Wisconsin, and Penn State games, those are not teams that are really going to contend in the Big Ten other than maybe Wisconsin. And now you got another one of those teams on Saturday or tonight with Ohio State. And your next 2 games, at home against Nebraska and at Michigan State. This has overlook game written all over it. It would not surprise me if Ohio State got a win here, because this Ohio State team has played well. I mean, they have wins over Minnesota, over UCLA, over Oregon. They almost beat Nebraska a couple of weeks ago. Wins over Rutgers. They played Illinois close. They beat Ohio. They beat West Virginia. Played North Carolina really close. So they're right up there with some of the better teams in the country. They've just really struggled closing games out. I think if they have an 8-point lead with a minute and a half remaining, I'd feel pretty good. But if it's a 4-point game and Michigan's hitting shots, watch out. Moving on to Saturday in the ACC, number 18 Clemson suffered their first ACC loss of the year. And they're taking on Georgia Tech, that game. So we've had some scheduling changes due to weather across the country. So making sure I get these times right. All right, so we've got Clemson at Georgia Tech, 11 a.m. on the ACC network. Right now, ESPN Predictor has, Matchup Predictor has Clemson an 83% chance of winning. I will say about Georgia Tech, though, they've given good teams problems this year. You go all the way back to November. They played Georgia really close. You go to the ACC-SEC Challenge. They played Mississippi State really close. They played Duke really close to open conference play. They beat NC State in their last game last Saturday. Watch out for Georgia Tech, but listen, RJ Godfrey has been really good this year, as has Carter Welling for Clemson. Yeah, those two have played really well. I like Clemson in this one, but Georgia Tech is going to make it close. I will say that. A ranked matchup going on in the AM. Number 22 North Carolina at number 14 Virginia. This one at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. Right now, the matchup predictor has Virginia a 73% chance of winning, led by Thijs de Ritter, a freshman from Belgium. I'll tell you, this Virginia team, it's young, and some of their guys. Listen, I'll tell you, a fun guy to watch is Chance Mallory. He's a freshman guard. He's about 5'9", 5'10", maybe. Giving you about 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists a game. Kid's fun to watch. I think the matchup with him and whoever UNC ends up trotting out there at point guard, whether it's Kyan Evans or I'm not sure. I mean, Trimble's back, but I'm not sure. Right? I mean, Evans right now is their assist leader, but I would assume Trimble would probably take back over those guard duties. But man, it's been tough to win against Virginia this year. Only 2 losses on the season, And those losses were to Butler back on November 23rd. Let me see if I can find this other one. And then Virginia Tech to open conference play. They have wins over Louisville. They have wins over SMU. Recent wins over Stanford, over Cal, NC State. Listen, one of the better consistent teams in the ACC. North Carolina has not been to start conference play. I like Virginia in that one. We'll stay in the ACC. Virginia Tech at Louisville. This one, Saturday, 1:15 on the CW. Listen, you look at Louisville and you don't know what team you're going to get. Are you going to get the team that struggled against Duke, that had a second half fall apart against Duke, against Stanford, the team that fell to Louisville last week? Or are you going to get the team that went to Pitt on last Saturday, put up 100 points, only gave up 60, and just won a game by 40? I think that's the team you're going to see. And as this team continues to get guys back, I'm sure that Brown is still out. Let's see what's the latest on Brown. So it looks like he's getting closer to getting back. I don't believe he didn't play in that game where they scored 100 points. I do know that. Listen, as soon as Louisville gets him back, I think that they become a very, very dangerous team. But until then, they're kind of touch and go, and are on the cusp of being knocked out of the top 25. Cal at Stanford. These two teams do not like each other one bit. They don't have a number next to their name, but they're both 14-5 and have been playing really well. Duke and UNC came out there last week. Cal beat UNC, lost to Duke. Stanford beat UNC, lost to Duke. Funny enough. So it was a bad trip out west for North Carolina, a good trip out west if you're Duke. But I think that trip kind of showed these two teams where they're at. That, hey, okay, we're not there against Duke. Duke beat Cal by 15. They beat Stanford by 30. But they both beat North Carolina by about 2 possessions. That tells them where they're at. And if they can't beat Duke, but they can beat Carolina, that tells you right where they think they're at in the ACC, and that's a good spot for these two teams to be playing confidently. Dede Ames giving you about 20 a game. Abuka Okori giving you about 25 a game. This matchup is going to be incredible. Justin Pippen's been playing amazing. Cal kind of has more of a two-man game. Stanford kind of all just rides on the back of Okori. But as well as he's been playing, it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere anytime soon. Now over to the Big 12, where we got a big ranked matchup to start our day. I'll make sure I'm getting the times right on these. So that one is at 1 p.m. Number 6, Houston. Number 12, Texas Tech. We've seen these two teams play like a week ago. These two teams did play back on the 6th, so the day after I made that last kind of check-in on teams. Since then, Houston hasn't lost. I don't believe Texas Tech has lost since then. And they've had a much tougher road. They played Colorado, Utah, BYU, and Baylor since then. Houston, though, hasn't had it easy. Have had to play Baylor, West Virginia, Arizona State. And boy, go look at Bobby Hurley out there at Arizona State. That is a defeated man, and you kind of feel for him. Two teams playing really well. Texas Tech's last loss was to Houston. Houston's last loss was before Thanksgiving. Two teams playing really well. Look, it looked like Houston had a little bit more when they played them at Houston. I think that Red Raider crowd's going to be crazy. I think you're going to get a 20-point game from Toppin. I think you're going to get a 20-point game from Anderson. He may even drop 8 or 10 assists with it. I just feel like Texas Tech has some big-name dudes. You got guys, JT Toppin, Christian Anderson, Lawan Watson, Donovan Atwell, all averaging 12 points a game. Petty can go out there and get you 9 and 8 anytime he wants. And he's a great passer as well. This team, watch out for Texas Tech, because I am huge on them heading into February. Also in the Big 12, make sure I put this game on here. West Virginia at number 1, Arizona. Listen, Arizona's kind of just waiting for somebody to come beat them. Is West Virginia that team? Well, Honor Huff, little guy out of Brooklyn, New York, is an incredibly talented guard. Putting up about 15, 16 points per game. But Arizona all around is just good. Like, they don't have one guy that they kind of rely on. I mean, Koa Pete's kind of been their leading scorer, but he's putting up 15-6. Braden Burry's putting up 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Jaden Bradley, 13 points, 5 assists. Krivas putting up 11 and 8. Toby Awaka averaging nearly a double-double. Anthony Del Orso's had a really good year. I mean, they got like 12 guys that they feel pretty confident putting out there. That makes them so dangerous. And, West Virginia has played some teams very close this year. And even have a big win over Kansas a couple weeks ago. But since then, they've also lost by 30 to Houston. I think we're probably going to look at the same thing from Arizona here. Iowa State at Oklahoma State. What Iowa State are we getting? Because the last couple weeks haven't really told us much. First, they lose 3 straight. They lose to Oklahoma State. They beat Oklahoma State. They lose to Kansas by 21. They lose to Cincinnati by 9. And you're like, uh-oh. Well, then Tuesday, they go beat UCF by 30. Recency bias? I'll take Iowa State in this game, especially since they beat Oklahoma State by 12 at home. I think they might beat them by more than that on the road. Because Iowa State's one of those teams, when they're on, folks, they're tough to beat. I mean, Momcilovic is putting up 3-point shooting numbers that are absurd. On the season, let me make sure I'm getting this number right. Yeah, on the season, 54% from 3. He has taken, on average, 54%. He's shooting 4 for 7, or 3.9 for 7.3. So about 4 for 8 from 3 every game, 4 for 7. Absurd. I mean, you give him the ball and he's putting it. I mean, 3-pointers are like layups for that guy. Josh Jefferson coming off a triple-double. I don't know if Anthony Roy's really got enough to kind of lift this Oklahoma State team up above Iowa State. Now, I do think that they're going to be a very good middle-of-the-road team. I think they're going to be right there with the West Virginias, the UCFs, the TCUs, and teams that they can play with the Big 12, but are really going to struggle when it comes to the Arizonas, the Houstons, the Texas Techs. Kansas at Kansas State, 7 p.m. on Fox, big rivalry game. 2 teams do not like each other. I mean, we still have... I think everyone remembers the picture of the chair. You just go look up Kansas versus Kansas State fight. Go to images on Google, and you have a picture of you got a picture of a player from Kansas, holding up a chair. So, those 2 teams do not like each other. And I'll tell you, the atmosphere in Manhattan, Kansas is untouched. I mean, it is one of the best in the country. Kansas has been shaky this year. I don't care if they got Darren Peterson. I think that crowd is going to affect them. I think Kansas State gets a big win. Villanova at UConn, I think it's the only chance in the regular season for somebody to beat UConn. Is Villanova. They're 15-4. Have looked really good this year under Kevin Willard. But UConn's on another level, man. Front court's good. They got good guard play. I mean, I feel like we're kind of playing the same game we were in college football, where there's about 8 or 10 really good teams. And you just hope that, that 6 to 8 of those teams can make the Elite Eight. Because I think that you get a bunch of big-time matchups. That's fun in college basketball. I don't know which way to lean in this one. I feel like UConn always loses one every once in a while, usually mid-January. Is this the one, though? Another very entertaining game in the Big East at 1:30 on TNT. You got St. John's at 14-5 going on the road to Cincinnati to take on Xavier at 11-8. Big story in this one. St. John's head coach Rick Pitino going for his 900th win against Xavier head coach Richard Pitino, his son. I mean, is there a better story than that in college basketball? Yeah, there's a lot of negative going on with the G League guys, but you got a legendary head coach, Rick Pitino. Say what you want about him. Great coach. So maybe some of the recruiting tactics a little less than right. Well, less than ethical, but I mean, he's going for his 900th career win, which let me look. college basketball. Let's look at the all-time wins list and just see how many guys have 900 wins. There's 14. And I'll just read you some of the names, and you'll realize how well-rounded these guys are. Bob Knight, Roy Williams, Dean Smith didn't, Adolph Rupp didn't, Rick Barnes isn't there yet, Bill Self isn't, neither is John Calipari. But you got Bob Knight, Roy Williams, Cliff Ellis, and he coached college basketball from 1975 to 2023 at South Alabama, Clemson. He was at Auburn for 10 years, Coastal Carolina. Larry Hawley, not at a major Division I level. Jim Calhoun spent, feels like forever at UConn. Don Meyer, one of the more legendary coaches of all time. I would say people around here would know who Don Meyer is. Coached Lipscomb from 1975 to 2000, and then was at Northern State for about 10 years. I'll tell you, Don Meyer's a coach that you should look up. Passed away back in 2014, but one of the better coaches of all time. Just all time. And I believe ESPN did like an E60 on him. I'll have to look that up, but definitely somebody to keep an eye on. Bob Huggins. I mean, hey, listen, he coached in the teams that are now in the Big 12 since 1984 with Cincinnati. Then was at Kansas State till 2005, West Virginia for from 2006 to 2023. Awesome coach. Kind of had a sucky ending to his career, but a great coach nonetheless. Glenn Robinson coached at one school his entire career, Franklin and Marshall. It's a small college in, believe it's in Pennsylvania. A private liberal arts school. But Glenn Robinson, from 1971 to 2019, 967 wins, 359 losses. That's a 73% win percentage. Jim Boeheim, he coached for forever, 76 to 2023, 1,015 wins. Danny Miles coached at Oregon Tech from 71 to 2016. He has 1,000 wins. Dave Holmquist was at Fresno Pacific for a while, and then Biola College is in a Division II school that is in La Mirada, California. Dave Holmquist, 1,086 wins there. Harry Statham at McKendree College, Division II out of Lebanon, Illinois. Herb McGee, what is now the Jefferson Rams, but was during Herb McGee's time there from 67 to 2022. It was Philadelphia Textile School, then Philadelphia, and then Jefferson University. It's a Division II school out of Philly. Won 1,100 games there. And then obviously Coach K at Army from 75 to 80, at Duke from 80 to 2022, 1,202 wins over 47 seasons. Now, the longest tenured out of these guys is Herb McGee, coached for 54 years. I mean, that's an absurd amount of time to be coaching. But Rick Pitino has a chance to join that list. And, I think an interesting thing to look at in that list is how many of these guys are actually at major colleges. Coach K, Jim Boeheim, Bob Huggins, Jim Calhoun, and Cliff Ellis, Roy Williams, Bob Knight. So out of the 14 guys that were up there, 7 were at major universities. The rest of them were at smaller schools. And nothing against that, but to be able to do that at this level, really, really impressive. So back into the games for this weekend. Illinois at Purdue, this one at 2 p.m. on Fox. Illinois is slowly becoming one of the more consistent teams in the country. I mean, I was just looking at their record, moments ago, and I'm like, man, they still haven't lost, since they've played Tennessee and Nashville all those weeks ago, and they haven't. And that's what makes a good team. I mean, you look at Illinois, wins over Maryland, wins over Minnesota, win over Northwestern, wins over Iowa, Rutgers, Penn State, and then go back to the start of conference play. Their only conference loss, Nebraska, by 3 points on a buzzer beater. They beat Ohio State. This team, where are they at in conference standings? It's 7-1, 16-3 overall. One of the best teams in the Big Ten. This is a heavyweight matchup, folks. Winner's gonna, have If Illinois wins, teams will have the same records in the end of the game, barring their conference schedules. Both teams with one loss. Listen, you got Purdue coming off a loss. You got Illinois coming off a big win, almost a 20-point win at home against Maryland. But it's at Purdue. It's at the Mackey Center. Mackey Arena there in West Lafayette. It's a tough place to play. Give me Purdue in that one. Now on over to the SEC for our last games to look at on Saturday. So we'll start off with, we got some early basketball, 10 a.m. Central Time, Ole Miss, Kentucky. So that's 11 a.m. local in Lexington. It would be an 11 a.m. Central Time tip, but again, moving games up because of weather. Vandy and Mississippi State are playing, and it's not even on TV because, again, there are so many teams that have moved their games up to early. There are 2 SEC games that aren't televised tomorrow, just because of TV slots. 11 a.m. Vandy at Mississippi State on the SEC Network Plus. Georgia at Texas, that one at noon on the SEC Network. At noon on the SEC Network Plus. South Carolina at A&M. We quite literally have the number 1 team in the SEC playing on Saturday, and they're not on television. Missouri at home against Oklahoma at 1 on ESPN2. Can we not give them that time slot? I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people caring about Oklahoma and Missouri. Trust me. I mean, they're kind of bottom of the road teams in the SEC. Auburn at Florida, that's going to be an entertaining one at 3 on ESPN. Florida favored by 10, but Auburn, they're wildly inconsistent, which makes them super fun to watch. They have a 20. This is their last 5 games. A loss against Texas A&M by 2, a 22-point win against Arkansas, and then a 10-point loss to Missouri, and then a 4-point win against South Carolina, and then a 12-point win against Ole Miss. What the heck is going on in college basketball? Listen, the Gators have won 5 in a row against Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Vandy, LSU, 3 of which I would say are really good teams. So right now, Florida's playing much better. I think Auburn's going to get them. It just feels like it is such a sure Florida victory, and this year that has been the least sure thing in sports. LSU, Arkansas, that one at 7:30 on the SEC Network, but quite literally from noon to 7:30, or whenever that noon game ends, so 2:30. From 2:30 to 7:30, there's not a game on the SEC Network. I think it'd be cool if they re-aired maybe the Vanderbilt Mississippi State game and the South Carolina Texas A&M games in that slot, because you got about 5 hours. Those games will fill that. I think you should re-air them. It's not live, but give some of the fans the ability to watch their game on TV, because I would guarantee you there is probably a good bit of Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Texas A&M fans that maybe don't have Wi-Fi or don't have the ESPN app, don't have a smart TV, and they want to watch their team play. Re-air them. Maybe that's something that they could do. Not sure. We'll look into some of the games coming up later in the weekend, actually. Sunday, got a couple of games. I don't believe there's actually any ranked teams playing on Sunday, so we'll just jump to Monday. We got Duke and Louisville on Monday at 6 p.m. on ESPN. Just kind of shouting out some of the games that are coming up early next week, because, again, with weather, don't know really what's going to happen. So that's... There we go. I was about to say, that was weird. It said Ohio State and Michigan were playing again on Monday. Penn State and Ohio State are playing on Monday, though, in the Big Ten. See if there's any Big 12. There's usually a couple Big 12 games on Monday. Arizona at BYU should be a dandy at 8 p.m. on ESPN. And the Big East, probably not anything on Monday. And that would be a correct assumption. And I know the SEC does not play on Mondays anymore. Remember some Monday games in my time. On Tuesday, we got Tennessee at Georgia, Arkansas at Oklahoma, Kentucky at Vandy, Missouri at Alabama. We'll just look at the top 25 games for Monday, and we already looked at the Mondays. But Tuesday, we got Tennessee at Georgia, Michigan State at Rutgers, Nebraska at Michigan. That's going to be a great one. Virginia at Notre Dame, Arkansas at Oklahoma, Providence at UConn, George Washington at St. Louis, Purdue at Indiana, Kentucky at Vanderbilt, Missouri at Alabama, and UMass at Miami of Ohio. Hopefully, I'll be able to be back by Tuesday or Wednesday or maybe even Monday just to kind of recap everything, because there's a lot going on right now. And you know what? We got time right now. Why don't we talk a little SEC baseball? I feel like it's we're coming up to time We've got a bunch of big series coming up here in the next couple of weeks. A lot of SEC teams highly ranked. Let's see if we can get here we go. Some perfect game first team All-Americans. So I really just some names to watch out for, at least early in the season. So Vaughn Lackey, the catcher at Georgia Tech. Henry Ford, first baseman at Tennessee, transferred from Virginia. Chris Rembert at Auburn, the second baseman. Ace Reese, third baseman from Mississippi State. Rock Chowalski, the shortstop from UCLA, just an infield, but he was a shortstop. Justin LeBron at Alabama, he's an outstanding player. In the outfield, got a couple of guys. Drew Burris from Georgia Tech, dude hits tanks. Derek Curiel at LSU. A lot of people talking to comparing his swing to guys like Alex Bregman, to guys like these are just LSU guys, but guys like Dylan Cruz. If he can get the power that those two guys have, watch out, because he was a beast last year as a freshman. Sawyer Strasnider at TCU, another outfielder. Daniel Cuvée at Miami, two-way player. Evan Dempsey at Florida Gulf Coast. He's a fun guy to watch. Florida Gulf Coast isn't on TV very much when it comes to college baseball, but if you can find one of those games, watch them. Trey Beard at Florida State. These are all starting pitchers. Jackson Flora at UC Santa Barbara. Cameron Fluke is Coastal Carolina. I remember that name from last year. Liam Peterson from Florida. Dax Whitney at Oregon State. Ricky Ojeda at UC Irvine. Troy Pluta at Arizona. And Dylan Volantis at Texas. Some second teamers. Just some names to kind of keep an eye on. Jaron Avincula, the second baseman from Georgia Tech. I think he's fantastic. AJ Garcia, the outfielder from Virginia, he's really good. I believe he transferred from Duke with his head coach during the offseason. Caden Sorrell, DH for Texas A&M, he's awesome. Looking at some of the arms in here. Tommy Lepore from TCU is going to have a great year, I would assume. And Kason Evans out of that LSU bullpen, along with Gabe Gackle at Arkansas. Evans throws heat. So good luck catching up to that. Perfect game third team All-Americans. We've got some names like Cade Lewis, the shortstop from Wake Forest, who's going to have an outstanding year. Jack Natilli, the catcher from Cincinnati. I'm a huge fan of his game. Lucas Moore, the center fielder at Louisville. He's going to have a great year. Hunter Elliott, starting pitcher at Ole Miss. Look for him to have a big season. Brady Frederick out of the bullpen for Tennessee. Just kind of some names to look at. Let's see if we have any preseason All-SEC teams. Just kind of shout out some I guess local guys, so to speak. Preseason All-SEC baseball team. Well, we have. I don't believe we have any actual preseason coaches polled, because these are all from 2025. So we'll probably get some of those in the coming weeks. But man, and look, there's a ton of SEC teams ranked. I mean, perfect game. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the top 25 in D1 baseball. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in D1 baseball. In Baseball America, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in the Baseball America. Probably finished the regular season with about 8 teams ranked. And if I had to guess those teams right now, LSU, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Tennessee. I'd say Auburn. I'd say Georgia, Texas, and Vanderbilt. Those will be your 8 teams. 6 of those will host, my guess, host regionals. I'd say probably 4 more will host super regionals. It'll be super fun when baseball season comes around. Y'all are going to learn when we get to baseball season how much I nerd out over college baseball, because it's my favorite sport. Because you have a guy that's going to go hit 2 home runs in a regional, and then in 6 months he's going to be selling you life insurance. And I don't feel like there are many other sports where we get that. Because most of the big stars in college football and college basketball and make all these big plays and big runs, they're going to be playing on Sundays. They're going to be playing in the NBA. They're going to be playing in the G League. They're going to be playing overseas. Baseball, man, they might never play the game again, because you have guys that were really, really good at baseball. Like Tennessee, before the 2025 season, or 24, before they won the national championship, their 2 all-time career home run leaders, Luke Lipsius and Evan Russell, who were on one of the best college teams of all time, never played professional baseball. Never. Now, Blake Burke and Christian Moore have since overtaken them and have been great, but for a while there, when you get to the older guys, it's a lot harder to get them drafted just because age is kind of a concern. Because with a college guy that's played in college for 4 or 5 years, okay, he's 23 years old, okay, he's used a lot of his arm, and we're going to waste a draft pick on this guy and not get him called up by the time he's 26 and we get 6 years out of him. But that's a rant for a much different day. That's what I love about baseball. Listen, I think the SEC is going to be awesome this year in baseball. I actually believe I do have like a diagram here that has all the some of the big weekend series on them. So the first weekend we're getting Arkansas, Mississippi State. We are getting Tennessee and Georgia. We're getting LSU, Vanderbilt. So that a great Ole Miss, Texas. Great first weekend. Second weekend, Auburn, Texas, Florida, Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia. I mean, looking at some big ones like Tennessee, Texas is happening in Knoxville. We're getting I'll call out the teams around here that I would say get the most support. Tennessee, their SEC series at Georgia, Missouri, at Vanderbilt, LSU, at Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Alabama, at Kentucky, Texas, at Oklahoma. For Vanderbilt, LSU, at Mississippi State, Tennessee. Dang, what a start. That's 3 really good teams. That's probably 3 of the top 5 best teams in the SEC. I'd throw Vandy in there as well. At A&M, Oklahoma, at Kentucky, Texas, at Bama, at Missouri, South Carolina. So a really nice finish to that. I would love to have Vandy's schedule. Get those first 4 series that are going to be really tough out of the way, and then you look at your last 6 where really only 2 can cause big concerns. Alabama, at Kentucky, Florida, Auburn, at Oklahoma, Arkansas, at Texas, at Tennessee, Vandy, at South Carolina, Ole Miss. So kind of spread out. I mean, you got Florida and Auburn at the front half, Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee, and Vandy, a 4-week stretch there in the middle. Auburn at Missouri, Texas, at Bama, Arkansas, Kentucky, at Florida, Oklahoma, A&M, at Mississippi State, Georgia. So they avoid Tennessee and Vanderbilt. So a good catch there for Auburn. And we'll talk a lot more SEC baseball again as we get more information, as we get closer to time. We're still over a month out. Well, actually, we're probably about 3 weeks out now. So it's getting really fun. So that will do it for this episode of the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. Again, there is some inclement weather expected over the weekend. Not sure exactly when we'll get to have our next show. But until then, everybody stay safe, watch a bunch of sports, and we'll see you the next time here on the X Sports Network.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.